Oh, you damn right. Orange Blood's live for a Thursday. Jeff Ketchum taking care of some business today. So we're bringing in Mr. Business, Anwar Richardson, orangebloods.com. Sometimes great minds think alike. Sometimes one person's thinking one thing and they ask them, hey, what do you want to talk about? And the other person goes, what about that? And it's the exact thing you were thinking of. That's what we're doing today. Shout out to the graphics crew for the work they did. Tyler and Jalen and the crew did a great job. And we're going to jump in to the latest conversation that if you're a Longhorn fan, you don't really want to have it, but I think you need to be able to have it. And Anwar, I'm glad I get to have this conversation with you today because you are boots on the ground, week in, week out with Sark and this team like nobody else. So I know you're going to have some good perspective on it. And a shout out to the chat. If y'all want to jump in here, ATX Big Rich, just with a big let's go and emojis earlier. You guys want to jump in, throw us a super chat, you can certainly do that. Basically, what has happened is
what had happened
was we have person number 2 that would like to have a certain conversation, even if it's a short one, about Arch and Quinn in 2024. So far, it's all SEC. First, it was Aaron Murray.
I wasn't laughing at you, by the way. I was laughing at Chad Gibson, by the way, who in his comment. Yes.
Who's this?
Chad. There will be some Chad today. Like, Chad won't go 15 minutes nodding his head today. Unless you want to do that, Chad. You want to be like, the old days. I can just go on a diatribe, but you just nod your head. And I'll throw up like about 15 different topics and I'll throw it to you. You don't know what to say. Okay, never mind. Yes, Chad will get to talk.
Today's show is brought to you by Predicates. We hope to have some of those today. All right.
Okay, so person number 2, I interrupted. You should be used to this. I interrupted. Aaron Murray.
Just a normal Thursday. So Aaron Murray, he had his comment along the same lines. And now we have another this is an SEC legend on a different level. For you kids that may not know, Uncle Chad and Uncle Anwar are going to remind you that Steve Spurrier is a legendary player and coach, a very rare bird here. Heisman winner way back in the day. At Florida, and then later won a national title coaching Florida. That's a truly unique thing. In fact, I'm not sure if there's anybody else that gets to say that particular part. Like,
are we going to ignore his Tampa Bay Bandits run there to Chad, or we're just going to overlook that?
The Bandit run is certainly important, and you as a Florida guy, I know that's special to you. And I dug the Bandits back in the day. I like the Bandits. I wish I had some of that gear.
By the way, you got to translate some of this, Chad. Rodolfo has no clue what we're talking. Rodolfo doesn't know what a Tampa Bay Bandit is, right? Most of the young folks don't know. Court may not know. Some of these guys, Chris Bennett knows because Chris Bennett stays on everything. Tampa, just so we're clear, because after he played for an organization called the Tampa Bay Bandit. Was that USFL? Back then,
USFL. He coached for them. He didn't play for them.
Okay, played for them. He played for them. Yes, he coached them. 83 in the 80s. So
right,
or 83, 85. You and I weren't even in high school at that point, Chad.
Right, that is true. I loved the USFL. I was a spring football fan back then. I'll peek in on it now. So Spurrier's done a lot, but Spurrier's now the second person that wants to have let's just say a certain conversation. So let's get it out, Anwar. Let's get it out in the open. I do not do a very good Steve Spurrier, but I'm going to give it a try because I feel like it deserves it. So here we go. Steve Spurrier, on the topic of Texas football hype, he was talking about Arch Manning. Here we go. Most people are picking Texas to win the SEC in football. They got Arch Manning already winning the Heisman too. My question is, if he was this good, how come they let Quinn Ewers play all the time last year? He was a 7th round pick. Yeah.
That's real. That's probably good. That's good. That is a good Spurrier.
At least the speed might have been good.
The speed. You could have slowed it down just a little bit. Just a little. But overall, because he's 80 right now. But in his heyday,
that was more of a 1997 Spurrier right there.
All right, so let's read it in there. most people are picking Texas to win the SEC in football. They've got Arch Manning already winning the Heisman too. My question is, if he was this good, how come they let Quinn Ewers play all time last year? He was a 7th round pick, right? So it's interesting, Chad, because as we set this up, let's first determine and start with, who is he taking a jab at? Was this a jab at Arch? Was this a jab at Sark? Was it a jab at the people who are throwing expectations on all of them? Because we'll get into the history of Spurrier, because for those who don't know Spurrier, and we'll get into this a little bit later, Spurrier was the king of one-liners back when he coached. Like he had some real classics that again, we got a graphic for you. We'll get to that later in the show, and we'll show it to you. But when you saw that, Chad, did you take that as, or was it a dig at Quinn? Who was Spurrier going at that point? Who did you think he was going at?
I thought he was doing the exact same thing Murray did. I thought it was a bit of a slight at Arch. It was a little crack at Arch. It's unnecessary. They're not having the right conversation because they're not on the inside of it like we are. They didn't follow it day in and day out, and they don't really know all those details. But I took it as sort of like, look, if y'all knew the truth, you would know that Arch is not as good as you think he is, because otherwise he would have played instead of Quinn Ewers. Again, it's not the right argument, but they're just using the fact. This all started, I think, Anwar. It got fuel with that 7th round pick. Once that happened, this is going. And this is why I think the show is important today. For Texas fans that think we're doing this for clickbait. No, we're doing this because I think Anwar thinks it's an important conversation, and you got to be ready for it. And Anwar, I've said it since last spring. 3 people and a whole group of people have to be ready for this thing. Sark, Arch, Quinn, and the fans. And if the fans aren't ready for this kind of discussion could ruin Arch for them. And I don't want that to happen. I think it's a silly thing to bring up the way they're bringing it up. But I don't think he's not, just like I put on the thumbnail today, he is not going to be the last guy. No. Steve Spurrier will not be the last guy to say, wait a minute, if Arch Manning is this good, how come he didn't play over Quinn? Quinn's a 7th round pick. It's not the last time this is going to happen.
Well, yeah. And no, listen, the question itself is not a disrespectful question. Like if we're just keeping it a buck and keeping it real, it's not disrespectful. It's not out of bounds, right? Because there are a contingent of people, especially a guy who was on this show all of last year and this year, and it just happens not to be on the show today, would question why are they playing Quinn over Arch? And and again, I think a lot of it becomes from the hype that's surrounding Arch, the expectations that are surrounding Arch, and yes, and people are saying, okay, because there is a question to be had, and Texas fans asked it last year, so no one can act brand new on the conversation. Like people did question, like, hey, should Arch be playing over Quinn? Should that be a thing? Like, are we missing something? Is this guy the best option? You're looking at QBRs, you're looking at different things. And then it really became a talking point when Sark decides that he's going to bench Quinn against Georgia. And, he brings it back in, right? But it still became a thing that people talked about, that people wondered about. And that opened up the doors. That opened up the floodgates. Now, Sark tried to put the genie back in the bottle as best as he could. But at that point, there was no way and there was no turning back once it was all said and done. So the Spurrier question as relates to, if it's just simplistically, hey, about the expectations on Arch and everybody expecting him to be the earth, moon, and stars and the second coming of whatever great quarterback you want to compare him to, him saying putting that out there. Now, there's justifications, and we can get into the justifications of it. But the premise of his question is not the most disrespectful question that I've heard. I don't view it as a huge insult the way he phrased it.
So before I throw something else in, did you hear it the same way I did, or did you hear it differently?
Well, I heard it as a question of. I hear it more as a question of the hype around Arch. That's what I hear it more as. I hear it more as, if he's all that, it's probably the same way as you do. If he's all that, how come he couldn't beat out a 7th round pick? Yeah. And we all know this, that there's nuances to this whole thing. Like, it's not as simplistic as could you beat out a person, right? There was never really a competition for him to beat out somebody. And we know that Sark was not really thinking about he was going to bench Quinn. And to be fair to Quinn in this conversation, Chad, he was just coming off of leading, and leading may be subjective. He was the quarterback of a team that went to the semifinals a year ago.
Yeah.
He was going into his 3rd season. It's the SEC. Yeah. It was kind of hard for Sark at that moment, Chad, to say, well, I'm just going to bench you at that moment.
And oh, by the way, they did it again. They went to that semifinal round again, which I think is all for me, Anwar, moving forward. Attention, everybody in the SEC that's going to have this argument moving forward. Just change your focus. Because Aaron Murray and Steve Spurrier, Anwar, threw out a lot of words. You know what word wasn't in either of their comments? Sark.
Yeah.
That's it. Change your focus. The discussion is about why Sark did what he did. This discussion isn't about, maybe Arch Manning's not that good. No, that's not what it's about. What it's about is a decision was made. And even through the Georgia situation, the messaging didn't change. Steve Sarkisian, after that game, Anwar, you were right there. He did not say, fellas, I thought maybe Arch was a better quarterback, and I'm not sure, and I'll let y'all know on Monday. That's not what he said. He said, I did that to let my guy calm down.
Yeah.
And we're still plowing forward, and he's our quarterback. Quinn was on board with it. Sark was on board with it. Arch was on board with it. And they just kept going. That's what happened. So to me, it's just a matter of focus. Change your focus and ask a question about Sark if that's really what you want to do. But to your last point, Anwar, they did go back to the semifinal, and they were driving to tie Ohio State. So don't tell me the season was crap because he played Quinn Ewers.
Yeah,
that's not true.
That's the hard part. And there's another part of this, Chad, that when we take a step back and have a big picture conversation, because yes, this will be the thing that we talk about for many of years to come. Especially if Arch hits the heights that people think he's going to hit. But when the season was done, and this is what I think of when I go back to, if Arch himself felt like Sark did him dirty and Sark was wrong, and the family felt the same way, they would have been out of here. They would have been out of here. They would have said, you know what? This guy doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He made promises that he didn't keep. There were certain things that were supposed to happen. They didn't happen. And so you know what? Screw this. We're going in the portal. We're going to go somewhere where we're loved, where we're appreciated, and where people are going to be honest to us and all those kind of things. That didn't happen. So the fact that that didn't happen tells me that Arch and their family was always on board, or at least they were on board with the decision to play Quinn, with the understanding of, okay, you're going to have a kind of a spare role, this year, learning, growing, and developing. And look, I've reported this before, but it bears to be repeated. When Arch committed to Texas, the thing that was communicated to me was that they felt like they have 5 years to play college football, and that they weren't necessarily in a rush to get to the finish line and get to the NFL. Unlike Quinn, who
right.
was always in a rush to get to
there's
the
always
NFL.
been a little, Quinn's always been
since high
getting
school.
ahead.
It's like play another year of high school, or I could go to Ohio State, get some NIL, and get closer to the NFL. Absolutely. Things didn't work out the way I wanted to in Ohio State. Well, I got to get to the NFL. So, man, I got to get the hell out of here. So let me get to Texas. And realistically, Chad, the thought process and the hope was, and they believed that after the 2023 season, that Quinn would be able to go pro. That was the thought process. Now, what happened was Quinn didn't have a year when he went to the draft advisory committee that really warranted him coming out. So he decided he's going to come back for another year. That's when the conversations with Arch and the family had to be had. And, this is what we're going to do. And this is what this year is going to look like. But hey, we'll get you involved. We'll have an Arch package, right? Well, you'll be able to run some, and, you're playing a lot different games and all these kind of things. And so, and the family itself said, okay, we're cool with that. We'll let that ride, because you know what? We've never been in a hurry anyway. We're all about growth and development. If it takes some time, if he has to sit for another year, it's okay. We understand that. And then one of the things I've reported to Chad previously is that, there's this belief within the Manning family, and it's correct, which is college football will be the most fun Arch has playing football as an adult, because the moment he gets into the NFL, it ain't fun. Chad, how fun was it for Peyton those first years in Indianapolis?
Yeah, I was going to say, he's got two uncles to tell him how fun it was to be at Tennessee or Ole Miss versus the pros.
How fun was it when when Peyton was setting an interception record in year one? How fun was it for Eli with that New York media in those first couple of years? And guess what? When Arch gets drafted and he goes to a crappy team, it ain't gonna be fun over there. So their thing is, hey man, go out there, have fun, so they're not in a rush. So I say it all to say, bring it back to where it was, is that the Manning family didn't feel like they were done wrong. So while I hear what the other people are saying, overall, that family feels like it still was okay and was still part of the process.
Yep. And as we've talked about plenty of times, if you still get 2 years of Arch out of this whole thing, then I think you're going to be pretty happy if you're a Texas fan. If you guys want to jump in the chat, feel free. If you want to send us a super chat, those will go right to the top of the list. Let's thank some of our great partners today. I do need to thank me some AV consultations. I kind of told this story yesterday. I'm going to expand a little bit on this, okay? My buddy Rick takes a trip to Washington, D.C. His son is doing an internship up there, but his brother also lives in the area. And we're just talking. I did not ask him about this, but out of nowhere, he says, man, I got to get a new TV. And I said, what? He goes, man, I go and hang with my brother. He's got this awesome setup. He's got like an 80 or 85-inch TV, and he loves to watch YouTube TV with the quad box, and he watches news in the quad box, and he watches soccer in the quad box. Oh, my God, it's incredible. I've got to get – and all I thought of was AV consultations. This is it. That's what I'm talking about. 255-8678. If your brother, if your mother, if your grandmother has a better screen than you do, that cannot stand. You need to get a bigger, better screen. You need to get better speakers. You need to make sure everything's hooked up, because dadgummit, Arch Manning is your quarterback, Texas fans. And you're like 65 days away from kickoff is when I'm talking to you. You got time. Get it set up like you've always wanted. They can do a lot of other things too, like security systems and indoor, outdoor lighting. Check out avconsultations.com and find out more about what they can do for you. 255-8678 for AV consultations. Don't get outscreened by anybody in your family. It's a dangerous
football season right around the corner. Football season's right around the corner, Chad. It's about that time.
So this would be my overall, Anwar. Again, a warning for Texas fans. This is not ending with Steve Spurrier. It's going to come back. Here's how I know, Anwar. What are the chances for you that in 2025, and let's throw in 2026, what are the chances for you that Arch Manning will be bad to terrible?
Bad to terrible?
Oh, bad to terrible.
1%, I guess. I mean, I got to give it, a shot. So yeah, so 1%.
I agree. I totally agree with you, but that's the only thing that would make this particular conversation go away. Think about it. He's got to be way worse than Quinn. Way worse for everybody to go, oh, I see. Ohio State would have to rip them apart. He throws 2 pick sixes and another interception, and everybody comes out of it going, oh my God, Arch just wasn't ready. I totally get it now. Anything other than that, this conversation will come back in some form. If they beat Ohio State, this conversation's coming back. If he looks pretty good, if he looks really good, if he's on a Heisman watch list, if Texas is undefeated rolling through September, if they go to the swamp and beat Lagway, these kind of conversations are coming back. So fans need to understand it. It's not because we want to have the talk, Anwar. I think we all understand the full scope. And again, I'm glad to be talking to you today because you are there week in and week out with Sark and these coaches and these players. You knew that week in and week out last year, it would have been insane for you to show up and go, yeah, Sark, you think Arch is better than Quinn? Like if you'd asked that every single week last year, it would have gotten you nowhere. And you knew that. So like I think, understand what this thing is. But Steve Spurrier, heck, Tim Tebow is probably going to look in on this at some point before that Florida game and make a comment. Or whoever it's going to be, they just don't quite understand the full scope of this. And I just think they need to be focused on Sark. If they want to dig back through it, that's fine. But I think the answer is pretty simple if they just look for it.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm trying to think of what makes the conversation go away. But, there's the flip side of it. If he goes out, Chad, and he's on Heisman watch, right? Texas is undefeated. Like, let's just go to all the amazing scenarios. People will be excited. They'll enjoy the moment, but then they'll still say to themselves, like you said, like, man, well, what the hell? Why didn't this guy play last year? Like, goodness gracious, you could have had a 2-year run at this one, right? And so,
and there's a little bit of a shame to that, by the way. That's what I would hope a fan could like separate those things, because I want, if I'm a Texas fan, I want to enjoy Arch at the full level, and to me, that's a little that doubt, that thought you just brought up. I don't know. I wouldn't enjoy that as much as a fan.
Yeah, I know. But, and again, it may be a comment in passing. I think overall fans will just be happy that their team is winning. All is going well. Will it be a talking point for some of the nationals? Yes. Look, at the end of the day, Arch is going to have haters. Right. I mean, first of all, if you're a Texas fan, Texas always has haters. Like you're going to have that. Like as a Texas fan, you've experienced that your entire life. You experienced that coming into the SEC. You experienced that year after year, winning Directors Cups. Like Texas will have their amount of haters, and Arch will have haters because Arch will be the face of college football this season. He will be the face of college football. There will be no other person who will be talked about as much. When you talk about last year, Shedeur Sanders being something as a topic on First Take, damn near every day, right? We're going Cowboys, LeBron, right? And then Shedeur Sanders, right? That was Dion or whatever. He'll be someone that's talked about. But when you talk about someone for a long period of time, people get tired of it. And sometimes they just start disliking the person based off of just more like, I'm so tired of hearing about it. And so there will be this the people will always have some sort of knock as relate to Arch. Like there will be that's coming. And so this season, he's going to get, some hate, from folks. He's going to get people that are expecting him to be as good as his brother or his uncles, excuse me. And if he's not, then that's going to be some sort of letdown, which, by the way, in college, it wasn't like Eli and Ole Miss were like tearing it up back when he was in college, right? I mean, the guy who had the most success was obviously Peyton, and even then, he still has the Florida thing that hung over him. Which, by the way, could that set up some of our famous Spurrier quotes? Because the one thing about Spurrier is, for those who don't know, Spurrier has actually been a hater of the Mannings and the University of Tennessee for a long time. But the one thing about Spurrier, Chad, is back in the day, he was the king of the one-liners. right? I mean,
oh yeah,
he had the case. So I had Tyler come up with some graphic of some classic stuff.
I appreciate you doing this, because if nothing else, if this little conversation today can just make us bask in some Spurrier goodness, then it's awesome. Because by the way, we'll compare here in a second. The comment about Arch, it's nothing compared to what he used to do. If you guys want to throw in a super chat, we will do that real quick before we look at Spurrier. At Spurrier stuff, let me give you one other thing to take a look at, and that is the beautiful cocktails out at the Deep Eddy Vodka Tasting Room. They've got even more now because pineapple is here. The 9th flavor is out there. Oh, I've got a bottle of that pineapple Deep Eddy Vodka in my house right now. It's my second one. I'm working my way through. It's awesome. Thursdays through Sundays is when they're open. So I'm talking to you on a Thursday after they open, 12 to 7. Friday and Saturday, 11 to 7. Sunday, 12 to 5. Make sure you get your DD or rideshare set up. Do it safely. They're all about having a great, safe time out there at the Deep Eddy Vodka Tasting Room. Grab some of the barbecue as well. It is so, so good. All right, so here we go. Down memory lane.
Just so you know, when Spurrier was in his heyday, winning at Florida, he never gave a damn about anything that he said. Like, he was about as unfiltered. Nowadays, when we see press conferences, Chad, all these coaches are really PC about the things that they say. Spurrier never gave a damn. And we loved him for it, by the way.
He never did. Again, just to get you the comp, this is the comment we're talking about today. My question is, if he was good, how come they let Quinn Ewers play all the time that last year?
Do the voice. Do the voice.
All right, I'm going to take your advice, and I'm going to slow down a little. Just going to take a little bit of a pace. Because you're right, he's 80 now.
Yeah.
Most people are picking Texas win the SEC in football. They've got Arch Manning already winning the Heisman. Heisman 2. My question is, if he was this good, how come they let Quinn Ewers play all the time last year? He was a 7th-round pick. I just realized every one of my voices ends up as Mac Brown. But anyway.
And you know what your voice also sounds like? It sounds like those old videos, like, hey, we heard about World War I. There's some things that are going on at Canada now. Like, it sounds like those kind of things, those old movies kind of things.
The women stayed home and they called them Rosie the Riveter. Yeah, all right. All right, so here we go.
All right, let's do it. Some of them.
Let's get some classic Steve Spurrier in here.
All right, you can't see the top one, can you? Because
I cannot see all of it. You hit me with the top left.
All right, hold on. Let me see if I can maximize. No, I can't. I can't see it either. He goes, I know why Peyton Manning came back for his senior year. He wanted to be a 3-time star of the Citrus Bowl.
Oh, that's a good one. He loved that one because, lower left, you see that one. You can't spell Citrus Bowl without UT. His rip at Tennessee back in the day. Yeah. That is a classic. These other two I'm actually not as familiar with, but they are great. Let's see. Upper right, will be the 14th time I've coached in Neyland Stadium. I've coached there more than some of their head coaches. That's solid. Yes. That is solid. And yes, I do know the lower right, Anwar. This is an all-time classic to taking a shot at Bowden. You know what FSU stands for, don't you? Free Shoes University. Yeah.
You got to tell them the setup for that one because they may not understand the free shoes university thing.
Yeah, so that came off of
FSU got in trouble.
Recruiting violations, right?
No. So they had players that apparently, I believe those players could go to wasn't it Dillard's or something to that effect? And they were able to go and get basically free stuff.
Yeah, this was during the Peter Warwick era, maybe somewhere in there.
Something close to that. It's we got to get our scandals all down. But nonetheless, FSU became kind of known as the place where the players, Here goes. Florida State had ordered an investigation of recent allegations against the football program 8 players were accused of taking part in after-hours shopping spree at a sporting goods store with $6,000 in merchandise paid for by an unregistered agent.
Gotcha.
And so, and of course, a lot of that was sneakers. And so Spurrier, just one day out of clear blue, decided to say, you know what FSU stands for? Free Shoes University. Let me tell you, can I tell you this?
It's so
I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna tell you a story. So one day, many moons ago, find out what year did Spurrier win? Let me see. What year did he win his first SEC title? Okay, it says 91 or 9. So it looks like his first one was in 91. He's got 91, 93, 94, 95. So I want to say, for me, this story is either 94-ish, 95, something like that. And there was a guy who was playing for Florida by the name, I think his name is Jason Odom. He's from a place called Bartow, Florida, deep in the heart of Polk County, Florida. Okay, and this Spurrier was on this off season, back in the day where they would just go to all the little different cities and go for the little booster clubs. And, back in the day, coaches used to make the circles in their state. Like, they don't really do that as much and go to every single city, but they used to. And I was a young reporter back then, kind of a correspondent at the moment, working for the Tampa Tribune out in one of those bureaus. And I got it arranged where I can follow Spurrier that entire time when he was in Bartow, Florida. Okay. And so I basically got to sit down with Spurrier while he was signing autographs, right? And so he's signing autographs, he's talking to people, and I'm sitting to the right of him. So this mid-90s. And I'm, conducting interviews, we're kind of chit-chatting, so on and so forth. And, but it's really perfect. I'm trying to be professional, right? And he just finally turns to me and goes, "Hey, you ever see an SEC championship ring?" That kind of sounds like Rick James too, right?
I kind of enjoy your Spurrier, but there is a little there's a little Rick James in there. Yeah,
there's a little Dave Chappelle, Rick James in there, right?
Kind of like it though.
Yeah. So he goes, "You ever see one of these championship rings?" And I was like, "No." And he took it off his finger and he slammed it down in front of me. He goes, "Now you have. Go ahead and hold that thing up. Go ahead. Look at that. Beautiful, isn't it? Beautiful, huh? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That's what a championship ring looks like. It's pretty. Yeah. I mean, he was so excited about, but he's so random. And so here I am, young Anwar, trying to be professional, holding Spurrier's ring. Like, yes, it is a very nice ring. Yes, Mr. Spurrier. I left that part out of the story though. But he is random. And it's funny, real quick. I was asking someone, okay, I asked someone, one of my Florida connections about this week. I got to be, I don't know if I can say I can't say the name.
Okay.
But apparently Spurrier still has an office in Gainesville. He just has an office that he can show up to. I think Mac has the same thing here. We can just show up to, and he just hangs out there, drinks his Coors Lights. Like, he's a god out there. He could do whatever he wants. And apparently, like, he saw someone on TV that was being interviewed, and he calls someone in the office. He's like, come here. It's the person I know. He goes, "You see this guy on TV? He's a cheater in golf. All this guy does is cheat." And he started he goes, "He'll over here and he'll try to do a scratch, but he's an absolute cheater. I hate playing golf with him, blah, blah, blah." And he just went on his tangent, and then he goes, "All right, go back to your desk." And then he was just done with him. He's just that random, spouts, and then just moves on.
And for the record, was the person on TV like another coach, or was it a golfer, or do you know? Or can you say?
He may or may not be the president of the United States.
Come on. All right.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
I probably said too much. I'm probably going to get in trouble.
Maybe.
Allegedly. Allegedly.
Too much may have been said. I see that super chat, Bates. We will get to it. Oh my God. Before that, let's let Specs have their say. Specs brings you the chat each and every day. Over 900 of you in there right now. Let's hear that jingle. It will get stuck in your brain.
Shop Specs! 60 years in the Lone Star State. A one-stop shop so you're never late. Price is so low that you want to know
Which way to Specs?
Come on, let's go.
Specs, fine spirits, and finer foods. World-class service, that's all about you. Shop Specs!
It's how we do. A huge selection since 62.
Shop Specs!
Low priced, amazing. Here's to you.
Shop.
Cheers to savings.
Yes, indeed. Get out to Specs. They got a sale going on until the 4th of July, and they've always got good stuff for you. ATX Bates throws in a $4.99, bringing us back to the Arch discussion. You have to bet your mortgage that Arch is either worse than Sam, better than Quinn, but not quite Colt, or better than Vince.
Wait. Okay, I got to bet my mortgage.
Damn.
So we'll just take a mortgage payment or the house?
I'm assuming it's a mortgage payment. Let's go with that.
Okay, that Arch is worse than Sam. Okay, well, no. Better than Quinn, but not quite Colt. Or better. Well, then the second one, right? Better than Quinn, but not quite Colt.
Yeah, I think that'd be right.
But yeah.
Somebody else threw in that if you want to get technical, Sam may have a better overall rating than Quinn by the end, but that's maybe just kind of throwing in some details. I agree with you, Anwar. I think the safest bet would be the middle there because it is really easy to type the words better than Vince, but man, to get there, whoo!
That's generational talent.
That is
I don't know about generational talent. I mean, Vince Young is still coming back here, and I think is Vince still employed by UT? I think
honestly,
is he like an ambassador or something like that? Like I feel like he got hired back a few years ago to kind of.
I think he's back. I know he was gone for a little while and then was brought back. I'm not sure as we talk.
I think he was brought back, and Vince is so good that he pretty much gets a paycheck for being Vince by UT. Like that's not disrespectful.
If you're so good, there are Texas fans that would tell us, Anwar, well, I mean, Arch would have to win 2 national titles, and then we could talk. Like, there are Texas fans that would say that, and I don't know that they're wrong. But
that is just, but see, this is what it struggles for me with the comparisons thing, because just we're, like you said, to throw that out loosely is almost to diminish what Vince Young accomplished, because that's like, well, could it be better than Tebow? It's like, really? Like, I don't know. Like, is it, the next good quarterback for Oklahoma? You're like, yeah, could it be better than Baker Mayfield? It's like, you mean a Heisman guy? The guy won a Heisman? So to me, saying you're better than Vince means to say you're going to be a generational talent. We literally talk about the 2 greatest quarterbacks in college football in history being Vince Young and Tim Tebow, and that's a debate, right, that people will have. To say that we'll be talking about him in that vein in the top 3 all time. I can't put that on the young guy. Not after 2 starts. No.
That'd be tough. Bates, we appreciate the thought though, and thank you for that super chat. I think Alan kind of nails this too. Spurrier was like the Mike Leach of his prime, but actually getting to the mountaintop. Kind of, yeah, Alan. Yeah. I mean, a little different. Not afraid to say what he wanted to say.
And you know what? To add a little credence to it too. I mean, he was known as kind of the quarterback coach back then. He was known as a guy who would bench his quarterback in a heartbeat, and he would have 2 quarterbacks at the same time. But he was kind of known as a guy who can coach quarterbacks. He was kind of the guy. Was he kind of the person that we would say ushered in kind of the high-powered offenses into college football? Would he be the guy that we give the credit for in that regard?
I mean, he's certainly one of them. I was going to say, yeah, the offensive innovation like Mike Leach, I think that comparison can be made. They did some things that were unconventional. They, it was the, spreading the offense out and making you cover every blade of grass, all that kind of stuff. Spurrier did that. I would argue, obviously, got all the way to a national title and fought for other national titles. He got to that level in a different way than what Leach was able to do. He mixed in enough because he had enough badass SEC Florida Gator football players, just like Urban Meyer eventually did. Now, Urban's was a different style, but it worked in the end because of the guys he had. So I like the
It didn't work in South Carolina.
No, that's true. It didn't.
So there's a little bit of a difference because now if you want to do the Leach comparison, Leach and Spurrier at South Carolina, now we're probably talking about something that's pretty equal. It just so happened that he got to Florida, he was able to, to tap into that talent pool that's there. And the rest, he is history as far as that. So at least when you hear the criticism, I don't say criticism, the comments, because as we've outlined, he just says what he says. And by the way, he's 80 years old, Chad.
Right. Yeah.
At some point in life, you've lived long enough to be able to say whatever the hell you want to say.
Oh, yeah. And like I said earlier, this is one of the most tame things he's ever said. For Spurrier, I mean, some of the other stuff, when Mac was at Duke, he would take shots at Mac. There was all kinds of stuff that Spurrier would throw out. And he's never been afraid to say the stuff. This just, to me, he's going to be on the list, to me, of the folks that just aren't quite getting the argument right. I'm all for them having the argument if they want to. They're just not framing it correctly.
You say the focus needs to be. You think this focus needs to be more about Sark and the decision, as opposed to Arch and who he was as a player.
Yeah, because they are framing so far. Aaron Murray and Spurrier would make everybody else believe, Anwar, that there was a quarterback battle at Texas in 2024. That's not true, right?
Yeah.
Would you tell anybody that? Would you tell anybody that in the spring of 24 there was a battle for quarterback?
No, it wasn't even close. In fact, he shut it down in spring of 2024 to let everybody know there was no quarterback battle and that Quinn was going to be the starter.
And once that decision is made, I'm all for let's have the discussion. Should he have really done that? All, whatever. But to put it's just an unnecessary questioning of Arch's talent that is just not needed to me.
Now, let me ask you this. In that game against Georgia, and he gets benched and Arch comes in, what's the narrative if Arch came in and actually lit the world on fire, right? Because people talk about, Saban would have benched a guy in the national and yes, Saban did bench a guy in the national championship game. However, when Tua came in, Tua played well, right? So, Arch came in, but Arch didn't necessarily light the world on fire. It was probably easier for him to go back to Quinn and when he realized, okay, this is just Georgia's day. But does the conversation become a little bit different if Arch goes in and lights the world on fire? Or does that just add more credence or fuel to the fire for those who say, look, when he actually had to play a really good team, he didn't do anything that impressed us. I'm just kind of curious what your thoughts are of the benching and the potential outcomes.
I think both of those paths could have been there, but I do think that if he lights it up, if they put a game together, if they almost get there, or if they actually won that game with Arch, then Sark's got to say to you guys, we're going to talk about this thing, and I'll let you guys know on Monday. At that point, I think that would have been critical because then let's see, OU was right before Georgia. I can't remember what the game would have been after Georgia, but that's the one that you have to actually, I have it right in front of me. It's Vanderbilt, which would have been an interesting opportunity there. You're going to Vanderbilt. Had they beaten Georgia and you're going to Vanderbilt, and I think there may have been, maybe there's a bye in there. I can't remember. But if you do that, then,
there's a bye and then Florida.
Yeah, right. That was a bye after, right? You bet Vandy then a bye,
and then by Florida.
Yeah. So I think, it would have been different. And somebody said, Rex is saying we'll never know. We will never know because it was 3 of 6 for 19 yards, and he wasn't great. He wasn't. He didn't come in and light Georgia up. Had he done that, then we all might have been like, come on, Sark, this is where you got to really think about it. I think he would have absolutely thought about it. But the way it played out, because as Arch is going out there, Sark can think to himself, I need Quinn to calm down. I just need Quinn to calm down. And go tell Quinn that. But then if Arch goes Tua, just to use your example, then you'd have something else to consider. But we didn't see that. So at that point, Sark's able to stay on his narrative and say, I did it to let Quinn take a breath. And then, you roll. And at that moment, and to this day, I still think it brought too much attention to the situation. Yeah. I mean, I think having him hand the ball off for those 2 or 3 series would have made more sense in terms of calming things down. But the discussion was going to be there probably, either way.
Do you think, Chad, there'll be any sort of growing pains with Arch this season? Because there seems to be a belief that, and I get it, like, well, people feel like Quinn was a certain way, and it is what it is. There's probably no changing a lot of the opinions, but it's for me. I'll tell you where I'm at, and now I want to hear where you're at. To me, he's still going to be a guy who, while he did play in games last year, his first start would be on the road versus Ohio State, and you get a little bit of reprieve after that. And then, he's still got to go through what I think will be natural growing pains of a quarterback who's taking over a team. And if he goes and competes for a Heisman in year 1, hell to the yeah, I'll take that 7 days a week and twice on Sundays. But I'm building in, into my Arch expectations, I'm building in a game where maybe things don't go all as according to plan. Maybe it's a little bit rough. Maybe it's a little tough sledding, right? It's maybe like the La Monroe kind of game where it's just like, okay, you made it through, but it wasn't pretty. But okay, you made it through. Or are you just the thought process that Quinn wasn't good at all, and this guy is the second coming, close to maybe not Vince, better than Colt, like somewhere in that stratosphere, and there's never going to be a problem?
I think there's absolutely some growing pains that could happen, especially with that being the first game. I mean, you're going to Columbus. What I would hope if I'm a Texas fan is that whatever growing pains you see in Columbus, the rest of the team and his good play can overcome it, and you actually get the win. And then you got a chance to get into those September games, knock some of the, starting quarterback rust off or whatever, however you want to say it. But I think there's going to be a little bit. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be perfect from the beginning. I don't think it can be perfect from the beginning starting there. If you were starting with garbage, if you were going if they had scheduled 4 non-conference games of nothing to start the year, maybe you could say, oh, this is going to be a parade route from the beginning. I don't think so. I think they're going to get their parade route in September, but the question is it coming off of a hard-fought win in Columbus, or is it coming off of, to use your phrasing, is it coming off of growing pains, where we come out of Columbus and go, all right, everybody, and maybe this discussion, Aaron Murray, Steve Spurrier, for a week, it goes away. That nobody would come. If Ohio State beats Texas by 10, let's just lay that. Let's say it's 20-10. Okay. Ohio State wins the game. Texas is a little sloppy, and Arch has a couple moments that maybe end up, partially costing Texas. Whatever. They don't play well enough. We'll come out of it. Everybody kind of has to pump the brakes on this sort of discussion. And then you can say, well, maybe he shouldn't be in the Heisman discussion just yet. Let's calm down. But certainly nobody off of that Anwar would say, oh my God, how did Quinn Ewers play ahead of that guy?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think there's growing pains. I think there's growing pains that are going to happen. Anwar, we have run a little past time. I think you have somewhere you need to be, correct?
Yeah, I do have somewhere I do need to be, but there's to make sure you didn't. There's no super chats that have been.
I'll make sure to clean the chat, and I got a couple more bills to pay as well. But I just want to make sure I get you on your way if you need to.
Yeah,
roll.
I need to run. But hey, before I go,
Yes.
1,000 of y'all watching this at this moment, please, 1,000 likes would be kind of cool. Or no dislikes though. They still don't have dislike on YouTube, right? They got rid of that. That was hurting too many people's feelings, right?
Hey, even if they do, just ignore that part. Just
yes, 1,000. Couple things. 1,000 likes would be great. Subscribe to the channel. I know you guys have asked. I am around. I'm here. I'm getting resituated with a bunch of different things, but you will see my face daily soon enough. Trust me. Just get through the next couple of weeks and back in full effect. So I appreciate it. Jumping in. I might be jumping in next week too, man. I might just come in here every day at noon next week, Chad.
Hey, you know what?
July.
Anwar, I have a goal next week. I want to become the new Anwar Richardson next week. I want to go on vacation and have all kinds of commitments show up for Texas. And then those fans say, Chad, you need to be on vacation more. That's what I'm hoping.
See, my formula works, man. People know I go on vacation, commitments come in. So when no one trips when I leave, they're like, hey, leave. We need some more 5 stars. Please leave. So it's all good. So, all right, well, you've got a super chat that's come in from ATX Bates. So I'll let you handle that. Y'all take care. I appreciate you, Chad. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. Have a good day, man. That is Anwar Richardson. So glad he was able to jump in today. Bates, I see the super chat. I will get to that. Also, let's get to some good news for you. In case you didn't know, there is good news in the world of Rogue Shop. Did y'all see that? Yeah, see that? Apparently the governor in the state of Texas might actually do the thing that you'd want him to do if you are a Rogue Shop kind of person. You're into the CBD, into the THC, into all the stuff that they can do for you. Man, Rogue Shop's got an incredible website. Click that QR code and go check it out. Maybe you're more like me and you're on the edible side of things, the gummies and stuff. I found out they've got Skittles. Skittles? Are you kidding? They've got hot chocolate. They got all that kind of stuff. Are you old school? Are you a brownie kind of person? They've got all of it. They've even got stuff for your pets. They've got the salve that Ketch talks about that his family uses for, just aching joints and stuff. All of that is there. Rogue Shop, and hopefully it's good news in the state of Texas moving forward. Your home for legal CBD, THC, and more. Shout out to Richard and the folks at Rogue Shop. Shout out to all of you in the chat. All right, Bates, let's get to it. It is a $4.99 super chat from Mr. ATX Bates. Hope you're doing well. Bates, like that fish right back there on the wall. That's one of his pieces of work. People forget that in Austin, after the benching, Quinn got Texas to within 1 score. The defense couldn't get a stop. Bates, that's not a bad way to look at it. My big thing on this today is just the perspective is really important to me for you guys, for Texas fans. Easiest thing to change is your own perspective. And I just think over this next year or two, people like Spurrier, people like Murray, they're not doing it to be vicious. They're not doing it because they hate you. They're not even doing it because they hate Arch Manning. They're doing it because they see a couple elements and they go, well, wait a second. Why would that be? And maybe they don't even search for the answer. We all kind of know the answer. We just laid it out. It starts with Sark, then it goes through. But I think what you're bringing up here, Bates, is correct. If Texas had been awful in 2024, you can have a discussion. If they had been bad in 2024, okay, they won games. I understand it. Ketch has pointed out many times. We discussed all of the non-scoring that Texas did at times. They didn't score a ton of points. I know. I get it. But they did go to Fayetteville and win by 10 and shut that thing down. They did go to College Station and win that thing by 10 and shut that thing down. And they did go to Michigan and do that to the defending national champs with Quinn Ewers. You can't make it. And that's the other part. If you want to live in the fantasy world of if Arch plays and starts, everything else that happened or better, and then they beat Ohio State, and then they go ahead and beat Notre Dame. It's easy. Come on, Chad. Don't you see the math? That's just tough to do. That's football fantasy stuff that I don't know if I'm willing to go that far. Quinn Ewers, still got Texas to that doorstep, the doorstep of tying up the semifinal game. And, you can do so many what ifs if you want to. I'm just telling y'all, be careful to not let it happen. Because if there's one thing you should not do as a Texas fan, don't you dare die or get past, forget about die. Don't you dare let Arch Manning leave and you didn't get to enjoy it fully. Whatever it's going to be. It might not be perfect. It might not be a title. It might not be 2. It might not be a Heisman. But whatever it is, soak it up and enjoy it. Don't let a discussion about 2024 mess with things. Because back to one of Anwar's original points, the Manning family is cool with this, including Arch. If he wasn't, there would have been bitching and moaning. There would have been a transfer. He's good with this. He wanted to take his time. And guess what? You know what he wants to do now? He wants to quarterback y'all's team, probably for 2 years, and see what he can do with it. And he didn't want to get in the way of Quinn's situation. And neither did the Mannings. They didn't want the static. They didn't want the weird stuff. The only weird stuff is coming from the outside. Quinn didn't create any of it. Arch didn't. Sark didn't. And as long as you, the fans, can deal with all of this, you're going to be fine. All right, we'll continue to ask you for super chats if you want to throw another couple in. Wait, did I miss one? Hold on. Make sure I didn't miss one. I think we got them. All right. Also, before I duck out, let's remind you about that great place in Buda. If you guys are down in the Buda area, go check out Taste on Main. That is what you're looking for. In fact, I will make that building a little bit bigger for you. There it is. Taste on Main right there at 116 Main Street in Buda. We are talking high-level steakhouse in a casual setting. That's what I love about it. That gate there on the left-hand side, that leads out to the Treehouse bar area in the back. It's beautiful back there. Go inside. You got a bar inside. You got Sam Elliott's picture up on the wall from Big Lebowski to make you feel better. And if you really want to feel better, get the Sam Elliott's mustache. You can call a drink Sam Elliott's mustache, and then if it's not a good drink, well, who cares? But this one is both. It's a great name, and it's a really good drink. When I'm in the mood for a whiskey drink and I'm at Taste on Main, that's what I have, the Sam Elliott's mustache. They bring it to the table, smoke it a little bit for you. It's fantastic. So check them out. Taste on Main. This is Travis and Tamara and the crew that brings you Hayes City Store as well. You see us and hear us talk about Hayes City Store. This is their steakhouse in Buda. They also do a great brunch Saturdays and Sundays. So go check them out at Taste on Maine. We appreciate them for being one of the great partners here at Orange Bloods Live. We appreciate you guys jumping in. Let's see. I have y'all know I'm gonna throw up some David Keith every once in a while. David Keith always has some good. I like the long posts, but he's always well thought out. David Keith says, with Steve Spurrier's football history, I would expect him to have more understanding to realize why Quinn Ewers and his experience as a 3-year starter outweighed Arch Manning as a red shirt freshman. Yeah, David Keith, I'm with you, but again, back to Anwar's point, he's 80 now. He's 80. We'll give him a little bit of that. It's an 80-year. You're asking an 80-year-old man to fully think through an argument, and it's a little bit tough to do. So I get what you're saying, though. I get what you're saying, and it's just one of those. This is one of those things that we'll just have to see how all of it plays out, because then once Arch is done, there will be a moment, I guess, where somebody sits down with Sark and has a discussion maybe about how he played things out or whatever. But I will always go back to, if you get back, and there's reasons they got back to the semifinal. We can go over all those little details of how things might have helped Texas out getting to the semis. We've been through that, but they did get there. And they were driving to tie that football game. And I went back and watched the whole damn thing. And I did not come out of it thinking, my God, Ohio State just smashed. No. Couple key plays go the other way. If Texas can figure out how to get Travion Henderson on the ground before the first half ended, how does that game change? If an official opens his eyes, I'll say it for you, Texas fans. if an official can just open his eyes on that Colin Simmons play. Oh, my Lord. That is about as obvious a holding on a 3rd and 8 on that big. I think it's the play. Is it the 3rd and 8? It's the play that leads to the Howard touchdown run or the Howard long run, whatever it was. Oh, my God. Horrible. A horrible non-call. Just a lot of, just a lot of things like that. So all that happens. It's real simplistic just to say, well, they should have played Arch Manning. I don't know. That's where if I'm Sark, I'm like, okay, aren't you guys being a little ungrateful? We got all the way back to the semis. We're the only team to get to the semis 2 years in a row. And you're griping about it? I don't know. Text guy says there was a component of snarkiness in the Spurrier comment. Text guy, I think I think when Spurrier's dead and gone, there'll be a snarkiness to his gravestone. Like, he's snarky. That's who he is. That's who he is. There was a little bit of it, but I don't know if it was that crazy. Actually, you know what? Let's look. Let's take a look. I'll look at it again. Let's listen for snarkiness. Most people are picking Texas to win the SEC in football. They've got Arch Manning already winning the Heisman too. There's a little snark in there. That's a little snark. My question is, if he was this good, how come they let Quinn Ewers play all the time last year? He was a 7th round pick. And again, there's just too much focus for me on Arch. But we also have to understand, and Anwar kind of got to this when he was on, the Manning family is such a lightning rod in SEC country. We all don't really maybe follow it as closely. If all you do is follow, like if you're a Texas fan and you followed Texas in now SEC, but you followed Texas in the Big 12 and all that, you may not have been dug in on like Manning hatred in SEC country. And again, Spurrier's a Florida guy. Spurrier goes to Florida, wins a Heisman, coached at Florida, won the Natty. And when you're a Florida Gator, part of what you are trained to do is hate Tennessee and everything Tennessee. And in this case, it was about hating Peyton Manning and getting the best of Peyton Manning. And is there a little bit of it left over for the kid? I don't know, maybe. For the nephew? Possibly. But yeah, there is snark in there. You're right. There's snark in just about everything. David Keith back in. God willing, when I reach 80, I hope to be even more rational a thinker than I am now. Oh, that'd be awesome. And that I was in the past. However, I will have not taken all the hits to my head that Steve Spurrier did also. That's a good point. That's a good point too. I didn't think it's not meanness. I didn't think he was being mean. I just think, again, it's a different focus. It's a different focus. Arch Manning is going to have to deal with expectation versus results anyway. He's the starting quarterback at Texas. Texas is as good as they are right now. They may be number 1 in the country to start the year. He's a member of that family. He's that specific member of that family. This dude is a crossroads unicorn the universe will see one time. That's it. Once. I'm going to keep saying it until everybody fully understands. One time. That's another reason I want y'all to enjoy this so much. I'm going to enjoy this so much. I have covered the, Texas and Texas football for now, 27 years. And it's been a lot of fun because it's the biggest circus in college football. And I love just sitting back with kind of a third-party observer view and watching this all play out. I want to enjoy Arch Manning. But for you guys, the ones that bleed orange, the ones that it's in your heart, I really want you to be able to soak up whatever this is about to be. He's got enough. He doesn't need this mess. Well, if he was, if you're really that good, you'd have played over a 7th round pick. It ain't that simple. It ain't that simple. And by the way, if anyone dares to ask either Sark or Arch a version of that question, I'm interested to hear an answer. Is it going to come up in Atlanta at SEC Media Days? Is somebody going to smart off and ask the question? Maybe. I don't know. Somebody could show up in Atlanta and throw the mic in Arch's face and just say, Arch, if you start last year, would you guys win the Natty? They might. I don't know. They may ask Sark. Sark, as you reassessed last year, you wish you'd played Arch after the Georgia game? Do you wish you'd started Arch the whole year? Whatever. Somebody might. I don't know. I'm interested to hear the answers because they've been really professional about this thing. Sark's been dead on about the whole thing. Everything he said, I think, has been nails. I didn't like what he did against Georgia. I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done it that way. But his message stayed clear, and man, has Arch Manning been awesome. We'll see what Arch does if he gets asked anything along the way. All right, over 1,000 of you in the Specs chat as we're getting ready to close up. I appreciate it. Let me get one more thing out there to all of you, and it is the good folks at Texas Card House and Hijack Poker. You see Texas Card House up there in the upper right along with the Specs logo. Texas Card House brings you the show every day at noon. They also bring you this masterpiece, Hijack Poker. If you are in the great state of Texas, that's how you do it. Got to be in Texas to play online poker, hijackpoker.com. Put the app on any device you want and then get on those virtual tables, and best of luck to you at hijackpoker.com. Speaking of poker, we also debuted the new Outsiders episode today. Jason Dick telling his full story about going to Vegas during World Series of Poker time. There's some good news and some bad news in there from Jason. Also a little recruiting talk. And the Mock 5 Top 5 this week is Chance Mock's five favorite foods you have to have at your 4th of July cookout rather. And we get into a weird conversation there. So you can check that out at Orange Bloods Live. Remember, if you don't see it on the live tab, check out the video tab for all the content. We appreciate you. Also, the upper left-hand corner is how you join orangebloods.com. Get signed up today. Get all that info. I'm talking to you on a Thursday. That means it's War Room night at Orange Bloods. Every Thursday night, all the latest news, notes, nuggets that the guys have for you, it will go out on orangebloods.com. So thank you guys for jumping in. Thanks to Anwar Richardson for jumping in today. I think it's a good discussion. I think it's a discussion that needs to stop, but I don't think it's going to stop. Aaron Murray's number 1. Steve Spurrier's number 2. Who's next? I'm going to be Bill Goldberg. Who's next? And could you please be outside the SEC? Maybe we expand it a little bit. But who's next to have the simplistic, why did Arch not play over a 7th round pick? Everybody says he's going to be so good. If he's so good, how come he couldn't play over a 7th round pick? Who's the next one? Anybody up? Anybody want to have this discussion? Trust me, we won't have this discussion again until someone brings it up. But when they do, we will remind you about all of the goodness in this discussion. You guys keep your perspective right where it needs to be. Do not let them change your mind on this stuff. Get ready to enjoy 2025. 65 days away from Texas and Ohio State. We certainly can't wait, and we're glad to bring you all the content here on Orange Bloods Live. Thank you for supporting. Like, subscribe, get your notifications. Like Anwar said, hey, if you didn't like on the way in, maybe like on the way out. Maybe we do get 1,000 likes on the show. We appreciate you jumping in today. We'll be back tomorrow for a Friday show at noon. Until then, thank you guys for your support. Have a great day. Take care.